Today's guest is Kalie Nitzsche, founder and CEO of Fuzzy, a privacy-first verification platform designed to make online connections safer, more authentic, and harder to fake. Drawing on her own experience being targeted by online deception, Kalie built Fuzzy to help people quickly identify and verify names, photos, and locations, and to give users a simple way to become Fuzzy verified themselves. Her mission is to reduce romance scams, fake profiles, and AI-driven impersonation by putting trust, safety, and user control back at the center of digital relationships. It feels it's so important. Every time I seem to pick up the paper, I read about somebody being scammed out of $100,000 because they thought they were dating Jennifer Aniston, or some random things like that. People perhaps at the most vulnerable are being taken advantage of. And I wondered if you could take us back to what personal experience led you to create Fuzzy, and what emotional landscape you were in when you decided I'm going to try and build something to fix this. Where did it all come about from?
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you so much, Andrew, for having me on today and to understand why fuzzy is not only my professional passion, but my personal, basically what I'm building my livelihood on is predicated off of an awful experience that I had regarding online deception a couple of years ago. And I'll get a little bit more into the details, but essentially this happened to me. And, I'm a single mom outside of Chicago. I was working in corporate America for Adobe, just like a very on paper, just a normal, what I would call a normal human being, looking to meet somebody and connect. And I got duped in the worst way when I was getting to the dating apps. I've been divorced now for 5 years, and essentially meeting somebody and possibly even having more children was always something that I really wanted and still do want. And I was kind of thrust into this modern world of we're meeting people online, and that's really how a lot of connections start. And then, of course, move to an offline relationship, whether that's dating or interviews or whatever that looks like to you. For me, it was meeting on the dating apps. And essentially, and I have a whole podcast about it if you're interested in hearing all of the juicy, scandalous details. But after about 8 months of dating this gentleman, and I saw him multiple times a month or a week, should I say, he lied about every single thing that a human being can lie about. And when I say that, I literally mean he lied about his name, his profession, his marital status, his everything. He was a complete and utter fraud, and he actually used his own children to help spur some of his lies, unbeknownst to them. Um, just to help fabricate some of his lying and what he was making up. He used his daughters to help perpetuate some of his falsehood, which is just so disgusting in my opinion. I met his kids. He met my daughter. They have a stepmom. I mean, they must have thought that was so incredibly strange. But after about 8 months of dating, and it all just kind of unraveled. And essentially, I found out that this person that I thought that I was falling in love with and building a future with was in every way a con artist. And I felt so incredibly taken advantage of and hurt. I mean, I was so upset. I was heartbroken. I was really angry. And I started to really dig into this. Why are we living in this society that's so reliant on modern conveniences, right? We're getting into Ubers, we're getting into people's cars where we don't know the people. They don't know the people that are getting into their cars that they're driving. I'm having food delivered to my house. We're buying things on Facebook Marketplace from people and going to their homes. So all of these modern day technology conveniences that we've all accepted to be like just the new normal, which are great, have this non-standardization around what it means to stay safer and to verify that people are who they claim to be. So once I started to really dig in and realize like this problem of online deception, whether it's financial fraud, identity theft, name, image, and likeness, impersonation, or misuse, pig butchering, you name it, catfishing. There's so many different words to encompass what is online deception, but it's a problem amongst everybody. And it's so prevalent across the world. This isn't just a US or a UK based issue. This is simply a global problem that we are dealing with. And one of the most staggering statistics that I've heard around online deception is that Google just came out with a report, and I read it in a Forbes article, that in 2026, they are estimating that 20 trillion with a T, $20 trillion will be lost to online scams, making it the third largest economy in the entire world next to the United States, China, and scams. And if that doesn't scare us into thinking, hey, we really should be thinking about the way that we're interacting and connecting online in a different, safer way, I don't know what does. So, yes, I had this terrible experience. It happened to me. I wiped away my tears, got rid of my mascara that was down my face, and I said, I really want to help make sure that this doesn't happen to other people. And not only do I want to help people that are trying to meet people online from a dating perspective, but I want to make all of connections that are online safer. So I really started to focus on what that meant and what would be the easiest way to provide the most um, efficiency and scale to be adopted for people moving forward, so we can quickly, easily say this person is who they say they are, and I am who I say I am.
Wow. A lot of questions. First of all, everybody's going to be obviously desperate to hear more of the story. So, what's the podcast called where they can find it?
Yeah, thank you. It's called Just Looking Out. There's no G, Just Looking Out.
Hmm.
And I even have one of the other women that were identified in this whole scandal on with me. She and I had become very dear friends. We've traveled the world together. We went to Portugal this past summer. So instead of blaming the other woman, which is what you
Yeah.
hear a lot about, the three of us in this scenario, I am the third woman of this whole shenanigans. We decided this is absolutely not okay, and we are the victims here. So you can hear all about the craziness that unfolded over those 8 months and how I found out about it, which was through a online Facebook community called Are We Dating the Same Guy? The UK, London has a chapter. I think I saw that there were at least 200,000 women in uh, in your chapter. I need to fact check that, but I know that it's primarily US based, but there is a couple of additional international chapters that are really just committed to keeping women safer. And I noticed that it's almost become this like gossip column or this like we hate men initiative, which I'm also not prescribing to. So the way that
No,
I found out was just by happenstance. And yeah, all the details can be found on the podcast.
I'll put the link into the notes, and I'll certainly listen to it. So, just before we come onto Fuzzy in more detail, so how long did it take you to feel you could trust somebody again in terms of a romance situation? And presumably you didn't decide straight back, right? Okay, I'll go back straight back on the apps. Let's do this again. How did you feel you could trust people?
Yeah, that is the number one word for what I am trying to do with Fuzzy is to restore human trust online because it was broken and shattered in such a way that I literally joked at the very beginning that I was building Fuzzy for myself so that I could better vet people online, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
And that was like the joke amongst my friends was that Fuzzy was going to be my own personal tool that I was going to use to meet somebody. And I'll be honest with you, I got off the apps. This was 2 years ago. I have not gotten back on them. The only app that I'm on is called Raya. And the reason I'm on that particular app is because there at least is some due diligence that you have to go through to verify that you are the person you claim to be. It's not perfect, but at least it's better than the other apps. So I have gone on very few dates. This experience has traumatized me in ways in which that it's really sad because I used to be like a genuinely super optimistic, everyone has good intentions kind of a person. And this made me realize, like, wow, not everybody is cut from the same cloth. And I need to make sure that as a woman, I'm putting myself in situations where my safety isn't at risk.
Yeah.
And when we think about just, the deception online and people claiming to be someone they're not, it's extremely dangerous when we start to bring that offline, right? We see that in the midst of physical altercation, sexual violence, etc. And you said it at the very beginning, vulnerable audiences. Well, women are one of them, and so are elderly people. Children are becoming vulnerable audiences online. And that's not to say, though, that men aren't scammed, because there are plenty of women out there
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
are trying to take advantage of financial opportunity. So it doesn't really matter who you are anymore. Scams are everywhere. They're running rampant. And it comes down to the core problem of that we don't know that this person is who they say they are. And how do we quickly, as a society, have some way of validating and verifying this individual. So at least that I know that you are Andrew from Empathy Unbound, the podcast, and I'm putting myself in a safer position by connecting with you, as
Mm.
opposed to just crossing my fingers and blindly looking at your screen name and hoping that you are who you claim to be. Because we're moving into a society where literally AI deepfake videos are getting so good that I don't even know if you're a real human anymore.
Yeah.
And when we look at things online, whether it's through our feeds or, social posts, etc., it becomes really scary when we don't have the ability to decipher reality from fiction.
Mm. So how does fuzzy verified work? So from the point you had this terrible situation a couple of years ago to the point you are now, how's the journey been, and how does it actually work?
Sure. So at its like core, fuzzy is a very easy way to verify someone is who they claim to be.
Hmm.
So I am the same Kalie Nitzsche online. Here are my online digital properties. This is my Instagram. This is my X. This is my LinkedIn. This is my TikTok. These are my authorized channels. I have gone through the fuzzy verification where I've uploaded my government ID, taken some special selfies that we have put into our facial recognition. And then in about 30 seconds or not, you're either approved to be fuzzy verified or you're not. So it's super easy, it's free. And what we're doing is we're finding a way to embed our fuzzy badge into digital photos or make it really easily accessible so that when you're swiping on a dating app or you're looking at someone's LinkedIn,
Hmm.
if they have that watermark on there, that special Z that hopefully will become the new normal for standardizing what it means to be verified, that person has gone through this universal process to make sure that they are who they say they are. When we think about LinkedIn and Instagram, and you're like, oh, well, what about the check mark? That check mark doesn't mean anything. That check mark
Yeah.
means that you have a credit card that you paid for the beautiful blue check mark. It
Yeah.
doesn't mean that you've done anything to verify you are actually a real human being and that you're authentic and legitimate. So Fuzzy goes way further in just very quickly being recognizable as like, this is this person, they've gone through this process. And through this fuzzy verification, we've evolved and we've built what's called Fuzzy Watchdog.
Hmm.
I noticed, when we were going through this process, that not only is verification very important when it comes to online safety, but so is the ability to protect our own brand reputation and our own brand integrity online in the form of name, image, and likeness? And how do we make sure that someone isn't impersonating me, Kalie Nitzsche, or claiming to be some sort of celebrity? You said it earlier, Jennifer Aniston, right? We're seeing these crazy celebrity antics and scams happening. And the VIP kind of high visibility people, whether you're a politician or a government official, influencer, celebrity, etc., they're being targeted first. Just that's the way that the scammers are looking at things. And I truly believe that identity theft and stolen NIL misuse or inauthorization is going to become the norm across all adults. People claiming to be me, the CEO of Safer Incorporated, and creating deep fakes with possibly things that I don't necessarily believe in. We are creating fuzzy watchdog for children. How do I, as a mom of a 7-year-old daughter, not only be an amazing mom and parent offline and make sure my kid's safe, when she's going to school or when we're going to soccer, etc., but how do I start to parent her and keep her safe online? So we're coming out with Fuzzy Watchdog for families, which will be really, really amazing. So, if I don't give authorization as her parent to be on some sort of website with her face on it, I want to know that she's on this AI video or that her face is now, God forbid, put on some creepy website. Like I, as her parent, want to have that information, that intelligence that I wouldn't have had before, so that I can do something about it to get it taken down as soon as possible. And that's what we're building with both Fuzzy Watchdog and Fuzzy, what I call digital gut check, because that's what it is. It's not a background check. It's just a digital gut check that I'm putting myself in a safer position, knowing that you're an authentic, genuine human being.
I mean, it sounds incredible that this isn't just the standard, really. But I guess, and we talked before about online social media AI, that it's just developed and is developing so quickly. It's almost all of the safeguards and guardrails that we've sort of lived throughout our general our real lives haven't existed. So, I mean, traditionally we would have perhaps met somebody through a friend, or a friend was dating somebody. No, she's got a brother, or he's got a sister, or whatever, and there'd be that sort of almost peer-to-peer validation or verification, if that makes sense. And then we sort of jumped online, and we seem to forget about all that.
Exactly.
We seem to just accept that. Well, this person says that they're Andrew Phipps. Of course, Andrew Phipps. That's it. And yeah, and then we have a lot of instances in the UK. We have a couple of very well known sort of financial journalists that are all about saving money and helping people, and are very, very good, incredible people. Their faces and likenesses are used so
Mm,
often on crypto scams and invest here, but they're so well done, and they themselves say they spend a lot of time and effort and money and energy trying to get these things taken down. It's really, really hard. But I think at least knowing where they all are easily is a good thing to do, and recognizing that if the person in that advert isn't fuzzy verified, then they haven't given their name and likeness to this. So therefore, it is something you shouldn't trust. And it does all come back to that word trust again, doesn't it? It's amazing how powerful that little word is, really.
it
What one,
is.
one, one thing I did want to ask,
Hmm.
and these are challenges, I guess, more than anything else, but meant in a very positive way. He says, prefacing this in the question. So obviously, a lot of people are happy to put their data out anywhere, and they're online all the time. And some people are more hesitant and more reluctant. And we constantly see websites that get hacked, or that people's information gets stolen. But so by having people upload their government security, and I guess international security over time, passport pictures, etc., and you're going to be holding lots of data from people. So how nervous are you about the security implications and your own responsibility in that instance?
That's a fabulous question, and extremely. That's why we don't store that information. So I'm actually
Okay.
working with a company on the back end
Mhm.
that does the actual identity verification of the government issued document, whether that's a license or a
Okay.
passport.
Yep.
They're doing it on the back end. They work with financial institutions, several of the different military branches. So they're a very trusted
Mhm.
verification source. So we don't put anybody's license into our database. We're not in the business of doing any of that. We are marrying that with real time selfies, and kind of have to do like a 360 different kind of verification of your face just to say, okay, this is Kalie Nitzsche. She lives at XYZ, Chicago, Illinois, and she is 38 years old. Those are the things that are on a government issued ID that are publicly available, and I should be able to automatically know that.
Right.
So those are the things that are going to be mandated to be on your fuzzy public profile or your badge.
Hmm.
If you want to take it a step further and you're comfortable authorizing your digital channels, because you're right, some people are super private and they don't necessarily want people to know their Instagram handle. Not a problem. You don't have to put that in your public facing profile. I'm already out there, so I'm choosing to do that. And it's allowing people to put forth the amount of information that they're comfortable with in a way that's still very safe. So we will never say this person lives at this address. Now, if I'm claiming that I live in Los Angeles, California, but my license is in Chicago, Illinois, there's a discrepancy there. And I need more information. And that's exactly why I named my company or the technology fuzzy. Because if something is fuzzy, you need more
Yeah.
information to make a better decision. And
Hmm.
sometimes with that information, the decision can be absolutely beautiful. Okay, you know what? I was given this amount of intelligence and I was able to decipher that this is actually a really quality individual. They're super good human. Great. And I love that. I hope that that's the majority of us humans. I truly believe it is. This is just helping us all find each other in a way that we haven't been able to do before. You mentioned the word standard, and you couldn't believe that this isn't the standard. And I literally, when I started doing this, I was shocked that nobody was doing this either. I mean, again, I'm not somebody that's I'm not like a Albert Einstein that just sits in my house and invents things, you know? I mean, I had been working in SaaS sales for the last 12 years in a very rigid corporate America job. But when you're talking about standards, people have to demand change. And we have to, as a society, say, this is not okay anymore. And we need something to at least be a blocker in allowing scams to happen. So I always describe fuzzy like if you think about it as the sales funnel, and for those that aren't in sales, it's just, the awareness is at top and the conversion is at the bottom. Fuzzy's at the very top. I'm not going to be able to catch every single person that has a bad intention online or wants to scam. Unfortunately, and you said it perfectly, it's really hard because the technology is getting really good at scams. And you have to be extremely intentional in determining if this is real or not. However, the majority of scams can be stopped with just the quick identification that this person is who they claim to be.
Mm.
So that's where fuzzy sits, right? So even if you're fuzzy verified, it doesn't mean you just lose your guard or you don't have human intelligence anymore, saying like, oh, this is the end all be all. This person is the most trustworthy thing that's ever lived. You still have to be smart in your judgment of them, but at least you know they are who they claim to be, and they're a relatively decent human. My team and I have to. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, no, I was just going to say, and I think that's a really good approach to take, rather than sort of thinking, right, we're going to get this thing and we're going to call it fuzzy verified, and we're going to call it no, we're going to call it super secure verified. And it means that
Right.
the person you're dealing with is never going to cheat, is always going to take the rubbish out, is never going to litter, is just the best person ever. You're basically saying this person is. They've said that this person, this is who they are, and that's it. The rest of it you can decide for yourself. But at the very least, it would have stopped your situation and 95% of situations where people pretend to be somebody they're not. And I think that's
Correct.
a good thing, that you're doing the core element of it,
Yeah,
and
and
that's
that's
what
what we're
is
focused on, right? Is
good.
like
Yeah,
how do we stop as much as we possibly can with the
yeah.
easiest amount of asking people to change, because change is hard. Asking people to create new standards and demand more is difficult.
Mm.
I think we all agree though at this point, scams are getting completely out of hand. AI is making it very difficult to even know, is this AI generated or is this a real human being? At this point, I don't know. So I want a really easy way to identify reality from what was either doctored online or is a completely false person that's claiming to be, his name's Michael, but he's living in the basement of his mom's, you know, rental house or
Mhm.
whatever. Let's just get down to the core of it, which is, are people who they say they are? It is crazy to me that a company, so let's take General Mills, for example. I always give this example. They can be brought to court and sued for millions of dollars for falsely advertising a cereal, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Hmm.
that is against the law to falsely market a product, but it is not against the law to falsely market yourself. And that is a huge problem. And so that's why I'm taking things a step further, which is I've created this technology. We're excited to get it out in the marketplace. I'm coming to London to meet with your government and some of the officials just next week because they see the importance of this. But I'm also working with the United States government in Washington, D.C., senators and House of Representatives to create awareness around the problem. Everyone's like, yes, this is terrible. I'm working with a state representative who had an AI video put out in her name, falsely basically claiming political stance that she's not affiliated with, right? So it was a
Yeah.
huge PR nightmare for her.
Mm.
Everybody knows this is a problem, but how do we start to invoke laws or regulations around it so that when people do falsely market themselves online and lie
Hmm.
and be someone that they're not,
Mm.
that needs to be a law. And how do we start to make some of this nonsense a lot more difficult and challenging because there are parameters around it?
Mm. See, so you have Tinder in the US, the dating app, yeah, the same way you swipe right, swipe left, etc.
Correct.
So so why why don't Tinder have this as a standard then? So presumably you've talked to them and that they're a massive target audience. I would assume that as a standard to go on Tinder, I'd put in my details, his 4 photographs, me holding a puppy, me outdoorsy, me sort of in a showing muscles, me in a whatever, and I love children, I love pets, I love long walks in the country. But also here's my fuzzy verified to say that actually I am Andrew Phipps and I am 55 years old and live in London. That's who I am. Why on earth wouldn't they do this?
I think it's two things, and I want to tread
Mhm.
lightly because I certainly am not Whitney Wolf at Bumble. I'm not in charge of Tinder. I don't own the match group. But I think it's a huge challenge for them to verify all of their people that are on their platform. And at the end of the day, how are they making money? Subscription based.
Yeah, yeah.
So let's take the guy that scammed me who had 6 profiles and was
He's a
paying
busy guy.
that monthly $112, let's call it, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Do they
Um,
really care that it's one person that's actually 6 people on their apps? I don't know. It doesn't seem like it's a huge priority. I will say that the shift in there has been advancements made in the last 2 years
mhm.
across the major platforms to admit that security and safety isn't where it needs to be. I don't think that they've done enough. So that's the first problem. The second problem is going back to what we've been talking about all this time, which is trust. People don't trust the dating apps. Nobody trusts online anymore because we've been taught that so many bad things can happen. So having a third party in place like Fuzzy to actually do the verification and
Mm.
say, hey, here's the data or the information that you didn't have for this person beforehand is on you to make the judgment call whether you're okay now that you've had it. I'm in the business of giving information that's already publicly available. I'm not in the business of judging whether somebody is a saint or not. So if somebody's willing to put on their fuzzy profile their marital status as married and they're trying to meet people, they're being transparent. Doesn't align with
They are, absolutely.
it doesn't align with my moral compass.
Mhm.
That's not I'm not God. I'm not judging that, right? All I'm asking is that people are who they say that they are. If you are 38, female, single, name all the things, I'm just basically characterizing myself. I'm fine putting that information out there
Yeah.
because I'm also not a liar.
Mm.
So in doing this, it's going to expose people that have nefarious intent as well. Like the guy going back to me, right? He would have never had a public profile that his wife knew about where his marital status said single. And
Mhm.
me, as the person that met him on the app, can say, hey, are you fuzzy verified? He says, oh, yes. And I'm like, hey, why isn't your marital status on here? It lends a hand to be able to ask questions that you wouldn't have necessarily known to ask before because it's giving you the information that you didn't have before you verified yourself.
Yeah. And that's what I meant really. Sorry that why wouldn't they use fuzzy verify, not create their own system? Because I think if Tinder or Bumble or whatever creates their own system, there's still that element of but they're a commercial business. Of course, they're going to say this is fine, this is not fine. I think using somebody external. And I think we had a good example in the UK. Um, so we have a big issue, like most countries have, I think, in the Western world in particular, with young people, children accessing porn online.
Mm-hmm.
And in the UK, you used to go onto the porn site and it would say, "Are you over 18 or under 18?" You would just click say
Right.
I'm over 18. That was it. That was that was what the porn companies thought was enough. So they went backwards and forwards, we're trying to persuade them, trying to not persuade them. And I think probably about 3 or 4 months ago, they brought in you have to show ID. You have to prove you're over 18. So the companies out there that do this, and probably some of the companies you're using that do
Sure.
that have that. And again, you show your social security, your passport, whatever, show it once, and this external company verifies it. You come on and say, well, I'm verified by XYZ, and therefore you can go and access porn. And I think we found that, I think Pornhub, which is probably one of the biggest ones accessed over here, their traffic went down by 70%
Mm.
after that was brought in. So you've got to think, well, people that are over 18, they're probably happy to be verified. So that means a lot of, probably half of their customer base before that was under 18 and probably under 14. So really young people. So legislation sort of forced that. And I think, as you say, talking to governments, which I'm sure is um, at times frustrating, and you probably want to tear your hair out. Luckily, I don't have any
Mm-hmm.
hair to tear out, but another time, you hopefully move forward. But I do think, until companies are mandated to do these things, there's still that, certainly for the porn companies, that commercial sensitivity. Well, why on earth would we turn away users? We're getting 4 billion hits a month. Why are we going to turn away 2 billion of those hits for advertisers, for our revenue, all of those sort of things? And they can argue all they want about it, but the legislation was the big reason that's happened, really.
And you're 100% right. It isn't until legislation is passed that's going to mandate that sites, dating apps, insert whatever, are making sure that people are verifying themselves. They have really no repercussions to do that if it's going to hit their bottom line. I welcome conversations from the dating apps to partner. I've tried in the past, I've gotten nowhere. I will say though that I've immersed myself in this space for the last 2 years. And if we're looking at like the global scale of what countries are really prioritizing passing laws and committing resources, money, time, tools, etc., towards bettering this problem, I would say that the UK and Australia are light years ahead of anybody in the world at terms of prioritizing this as a major problem. So I commend what you guys are doing in the UK to really say, no, this is not, 14-year-olds should not be looking on Pornhub. We need to make sure that they're 18 or over.
Mm.
And so I just hope that that kind of you guys are really taking, being a trailblazer in that space. And I hope that more countries follow along with just the need to do this because sextortion in the United States alone for boys 13 to 17 years old is up 7,200%. We are seeing massive inclines of suicide rates from things of sextortion where people, scammers are getting a hold of these kids online on their social medias and then either saying, hey, you give us money or we are going to release all of these photos that you gave of us. And it's leading towards literally these poor children killing themselves because they don't feel like they have a choice. And it all comes back to awareness, education from the parent that we have to be doing a better job of policing and governing our kids online. If safety is so important offline, but it's equally as important online. I'm really trying to make that a case here in the United States, which is like we can't just send them. We can't just be a parent when it's convenient to us in the real life world. So much of the generation Alpha and Gen Z is online that we really need to take a stance as a parent to make sure that we understand what our kids are doing online as well. And with Fuzzy Watchdog, I'm really excited to be able to bring a tool to parents, to myself, to anybody that's wanting to make sure that they're protecting their own brand image online. Because once that's tarnished, once my face, or God forbid, my daughter's face ends up on something extremely terrible, it's really hard to reverse that, whether it's true or not, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm trying my best to not only provide the tool, but also the advocacy and the awareness that we have to be doing better. And kind of closing the loop here, I will say that the UK and Australia have really taken a step forward in the prioritization of making sure that children and their citizens are safer in this online world.
Mm. And I think Australia's even going a step further. So they are, well, currently bringing in a law that bans social media for under 16s. I think of all of the sort of top 10 social media. So Snapchat and TikTok and even YouTube, sort of they're brought in a law that's banning it. Interestingly, there are a couple of 15-year-olds that are challenging it in court, but saying it's taking away our rights, etc. But I think, yeah, and it terrifies me. As I said before, I've got a 15-year-old son, and I say to him, look, if you send a picture to anybody, assume you're sending it to everybody, because
Mm-hmm.
that picture, once it's digital, that can go anywhere in the world to anybody. Yes, it might be to your current girlfriend or somebody you've been talking to online that you think is somebody you're talking to online that isn't the person you're talking to. And yeah, so the last thing, yeah, each week there's a terrible story in the newspaper about somebody that has been blackmailed by somebody and
Ugh,
ends up
it's just awful.
just doing the worst possible thing. As a parent, you're sitting downstairs or you're sitting next to the person on the sofa, for goodness sake, that is receiving this message, and when they're sort of 15, 16, you think, wow, you want to give them some freedom, etc. But it's just very, very different. And you're much younger than me, but especially when I was growing up, well, first of all, there were no smartphones. There were no smartphones. There was no internet. And I thought I had it hard then, but now that's the problem with scamming now. There's always been people that, particularly men, always been men that have been trying to get something by being deceptive and perhaps saying they haven't got a girlfriend or a wife or a partner, or whatever. The challenge now is that they're doing that on a global scale. It's not like the person in the next door village you have to meet in person. They eventually find out when you go to the hairdressers that actually, well, we're dating the same person. That's not good. Whereas now it's that person can be talking to somebody anywhere in the world, can't they?
Yeah,
They can be talking. You could be talking to somebody in Nigeria, in India, in England, in wherever, and they could be telling you anything unless there's some way to find and verify. One of the things I think we've long struggled with as a society, particularly as a very male dominated society, is there's been a lot of shaming of victims.
mm,
And I think what I mean by that is that people saying, oh, well, you're bright, you work for Adobe, you're smart, you're intelligent, surely shouldn't you have checked? Almost putting it on you as opposed to putting it on the person that's perpetuating the scam. So how sensitive are you to the language that Fuzzy uses to very much get across that you're supporting people before anything happened, as opposed to saying that we're picking up the mess after you were careless. We're trying to do the right thing for you. So I think it's really important.
absolutely. And it's such a well-framed question because immediately after I had found out that this had happened to me, I consider myself a relatively smart woman. I have an MBA. I've had this great career. I own my own home, all the things. Awesome. And you're right. Immediately there was a stigma like, what did I miss? What red flag didn't I, pay attention to and hone in on? Didn't Why didn't I know that this guy was married and was lying about where he was going to work every day? And the at the reason is because 92% of the things that this man was saying was true. I saw him in the polo of the company he claimed to work for. I
Oh
mean,
my goodness, he
right? Like
really
I'm
does
not
it,
I'm
doesn't
not gonna like follow him to work.
he? No, you're
I
not a bit
met
stalker, do you? No.
Exactly. Like I met his daughters. Why would I say, "Hey girls, do you have a stepmom?" I mean, so it's like at some point you have to trust other people, especially when you're creating a relationship with them.
Yeah.
And I very quickly was like, no, I am the victim here, and I am not ashamed of my story because one, it's happening to so many people. And I feel like there is this kind of like, we can't talk about it because then we look stupid, or we didn't do enough due diligence on our own end, but that's not the case. And that's why in my podcast, when I talk about the story, I don't say his name, and I have never publicly said his name. Why? I'm not shining a light on him for a second.
Yeah.
The light is on me and is on helping people before this happens to them. And to your point, like the language and the tonality and just the brand voice of Fuzzy is extremely humane. Although
Mm.
this is a technology, we use AI in our tech. We're doing it in a very responsible way, but this is supposed to feel like a cool thing. Safety is cool. I'm trying to say safety is sexy. Awesome. The safer the better, right? Make
Absolutely.
safety sexy. Like, I don't know, whatever slogan you want.
Yeah.
We're not trying to be the Norton antivirus of people. I innately believe that there are more good people than there are bad people. And I want a very quick way of identifying those people, at least their authenticity, their genuineness, to say, hey, these people are who they claim to be. Now, once you've done that, it is then your position as a human to decipher if you're okay with that information. That's on you. And you
Yeah.
should be able to always have that that decision making of your own in terms
Mm.
of autonomy.
Mhm.
Um, we deserve the intelligence or the information up front, though, to make that decision, whether that person is worth our time, energy, commitment, etc.
Mm. How quickly do you hope you can roll out Watchdog to, I guess, the ordinary users? So I know you're working now with lots of influencers and lots of sort of people that perhaps have their image stolen, that are sort of major figures. But how quickly could that roll out so my children can access, or I can access it as a parent?
Yeah, great question. So we do have several high profile people on our platform right now, including several Major League Baseball players, which is awesome. So we have this very VIP clientele on Watchdog right now. We've collected all the feedback. We're implementing those changes. We are very hopeful that by the first of the year, January, February timeframe, that Watchdog will be available to the general public. Now, it is rolling out to the United States first. We have to be
Mhm.
mindful of just geographical laws and the differences between, data and there's just different nuances between different countries.
Mhm.
But it will be a fast follow for, the UK, Australia, Canada, to get Fuzzy going in those international markets as well, which is just so exciting because if we can create the demand as a society where we have this universal standardization of verification. If the
Yeah.
new normal is like, hey, are you Fuzzy verified? And people know exactly what you're talking about, whether I'm in the US or in London,
Yeah.
it levels the playing field for just knowing that humans are telling the truth.
That'd be nice.
Yeah. So that's what my goal is. And I know it's a giant, I mean, what I'm trying to do is essentially change what has become a tremendous problem and help individuals have a tool so that they don't get scammed or conned moving forward, but in a
Mm.
way that focuses on authenticity, being genuine, telling the truth. And that's all I'm trying to do. So, guys, if you're listening to this, check out to see when Fuzzy is coming to your market because I really truly believe that it's going to be the new green flag for people.
Absolutely. A couple of things I just wanted to ask about you really. So this is obviously an incredibly important space to work in, but also one that can be incredibly challenging. So you must come across lots of painful stories about things that have happened to people, perhaps, and it's ended up even worse than your situation. How do you almost protect your own mental well-being so you don't
Hmm.
carry that with you all the time? How do you, yeah, because I guess you want to always show up as the best version of yourself you can for your daughter, for your family, for your friends, your loved ones, your colleagues, etc. But having all this all these sad stories that must come your way. How do you protect yourself?
Yeah, so one of the things I didn't realize that would come with starting this movement
Mm,
is the overload of people wanting to share their stories with me, which I absolutely cherish
yeah.
and am so grateful for people for trusting me with what their experience is, and there's pain behind it and trauma.
Hmm.
Season 2 of my podcast interviews other people that have been scammed, frauded, etc. And yes, it is a heavy burden to carry, but I almost feel like it's my calling now to do that, to be just somebody to listen to that says, hey, I know what you're going through. It sucks. Um, I try not to let it weigh on me too much because I do have to be a very positive,
Mm,
engaged, present mom. And one thing that I've done that's really helped me, and I was telling a friend this the other day, I have completely changed my algorithm of social media. I used to sit there and scroll what's the latest with Kim Kardashian, or, I'm super like I was watching, all the Real Housewives and
yeah.
just nonsense. And I'm
Mhm.
not saying those people are nonsense. I'm just saying like the
No, no, no.
quality of information or things that I was listening to and I didn't even really realize it, but I was so ingrained in it. And I finally just said, why am I spending my time looking at this stuff? So I've changed one, I changed my Instagram handle completely just to kind of start over. And now everything is like, you're a badass, you can do it, helping others. I'm constantly on other people's pages saying, like, girl, we see you. Hey, you got this. Like, mentality of like, keep going. I know it's like such a strike, like it's such a it's a contrite two words, keep going, but everybody's always like, what is your advice? Literally, that's my advice, keep going. This summer sucked for me. I didn't take a paycheck from the month of March to October. I had not a dollar coming into my household. That is very hard when you're a single mom, right? I just kept going every single day. I just kept going and believing that I'm on my path, that I'm doing the right thing, and I operate with my own personal integrity, and I try to stay kind. Every day I drop my daughter off at school. Our two things are, we say, have courage and be kind. And we say, this is the day the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. And I truly start our days like that. I'm I just you just have to believe in what you're doing. And with that though is also being understanding of the people that are experiencing the trauma. And it's not my pain to carry around, but uh, it's certainly my business to listen and to be a lending ear and just let them know that they're in a safe space to share their experience.
That's a great answer. Two more quick questions. In a, this is going to sound terrible in a way, but it's it's almost a positive that what happened to you. No, what let me
No,
rephrase that. Yeah, I think you've managed to take an incredible positive out of what happened to you. And
and
if that hadn't happened to you, you'd be what now? A senior vice president at Adobe, or you'd be what? You'd be just living a normal life in a beautiful town in near Chicago, and that would be it. And nobody would ever have heard of you outside of your close family and friends. So I guess there's positive, and you have done what a lot of people can't do, and you've taken incredible positives from a terrible situation. So, well, just a huge thank you from me, from everybody, really, for because it would have been very easy to think, oh, I got scammed. I'm not going to get scammed again, and then just carry on with your life. Nobody decides, right now I'm going to take on the whole world of scamming, and I'm going to fix it.
online deception. I'm going to be a fixer.
Either
Right.
you're incredibly confident a person, which you obviously must be, but yeah, it's an incredible thing to think, well, no, I can fix that. But if people don't think I can fix that, nothing ever gets fixed. So we need you and people like you to say, no, I can fix this. And who knows, you might fail the first time, the second time, the third time, but I know for sure that in 1 year, 2 year, 5 years time, fuzzy will just be the way we verify things. And I've
Thank
gone,
you so
yeah,
much.
I remember talking to that. Yeah, gosh, I remember talking to the CEO of that company. Wow. Look how far it's come since then. It just feels like the right thing at the right time.
Yeah, this experience has given my life meaning. And I mean that because professionally, what I'm doing now, and personally, I mean, this is my life. This is my second child. Um, I wake up in the morning, I'm in the 5 a.m. club. I'm excited. I want to do all the things. I'm so aspirational. My team will be like, wait, what? When do you want this by? And I really have this huge vision for really how many people can we help? How quickly can we do it? And I'm also a businesswoman. I realize the massive financial opportunity there is here to run a successful business. There aren't companies doing this. There is no other company like Fuzzy Watchdog that's protecting name, image, and likeness and sending you an alert when that's being unauthorized. So you can go directly to the source and work with Meta to get it taken down. I
Yeah.
want to become a partner with Meta so that they know when Fuzzy sends them over hundreds of profiles a day that are saying, hey, these are fake, they're just taking them down,
Yeah.
right? So I have all these grandiose plans, and I probably am delusionally optimistic that this is going to be wildly successful, but I don't really know how you're an entrepreneur and don't have that veil of craziness because if you if you didn't, I think it would be extremely difficult to continue being told no 150 times from investors over a summer and just every day saying, okay, this is the day, this is the day, right? But yes, I turned a very sour lemon into a fabulous lemon martini, and I've made it my life's work now.
You'd be perfect for Shark Tank, wouldn't you?
So I was actually on, I think I can, this won't air for a while, right?
Whenever you want it to, I can put it out.
Oh, okay. Well, I was on Entrepreneur's Elevator Pitch,
Oh,
and
wow.
I secured funding in September, and that episode releases on December 10th. So Fox just bought Elevator Pitch from Amazon, so they're doing this massive go-to-market to rival Shark Tank um, in 2026. So it's just wonderful timing. Like again, I made it through the elevator. I secured funding with a big firm in Manhattan, and it was just an awesome experience. Talk about having to get your elevator pitch, nailed correctly.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've had conversations with TED Talk to see how we could partner there. But um, again, a delusionally optimistic, but with a sense of reality. Like I'm realistic with what we can do, but I want to stretch the limits and just keep on going because there's so much of a problem here. I'm just barely chipping away at the surface. Um, so yeah, I hope Fuzzy becomes the new normal and just is like a really quick way so we can say, oh, that's Kalie. This is the same Kalie online as she is in real life.
Yeah.
I can move about my business now and either choose to engage with her or not.
Wow. You've been absolutely fabulous. And
Thank you.
I don't think you're chipping away. I think you have a huge sledgehammer. You're just smashing away in the best possible way.
Yeah, you're right.
Um,
Like I guess the tool I chose is incorrect. I am taking a sledgehammer, but this is a huge problem, and it's
it
going to
is.
take a lot of swipes to make it actually crumble down. I have no idea how many trips to Washington, D.C. are in my future, but something tells me there's quite a lot, and I will
Yeah.
be there every step of the way. And now I'm not going to be like with the sign on Capitol Hill. I'm actually going into the offices. But yeah, this is 2 years ago, had you told me I was doing this with you now, I personally would have believed you, but I don't know if other people around me would have because I knew that this was going to work and I was going to make it work. I didn't know how big it would become. I originally created Fuzzy to be a woman friendly, dating adjacent compliment, right? This has become something so much bigger. And the name of my company is actually Save Her Incorporated. And it wasn't until a couple months later that I realized that is incredibly gender specific. And this is not a gender problem. This is an everybody problem. And so I
Yeah.
found a word that was very gender neutral, non emotional. maybe, okay, what's fuzzy needs a little bit more information. Also, turns out nobody bought the word fuzzy, so I own it. And I just started to create this idea, this movement. Now the technology from both a B2B and B2C perspective, and I'm excited to see the scale and just hopeful success from all of it.
Well, I just don't even want to say I hope you're successful because I know you'll be
Thank
successful.
you.
You're so driven and passionate, which is wonderful. Thank you so much for your time. The best of luck when you come to Europe next week. I hope you get great success and people listen and understand what you're saying, which I'm sure they will. But yeah, thank you. You've been fabulous.
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you so much for having me on the show. And I have one question. I love Christmas time, and I've never experienced Christmas in London. What is the go-to pub or bar that I need to go to that is just going to give me all the Christmas vibes?
I think anywhere you go to in sort of Belgravia, which is sort of Chelsea sort of area of London, they tend to really dress up the pubs beautifully. And I'll send you some photographs. And they
Okay,
really, yeah, the decorations are all up now. It just looks sensational.
awesome.
Yeah, and you'll enjoy English hospitality, hopefully.
I love London, and I'm very excited to come overseas next week. So thank you again for having me. I really appreciate it. And yeah, let's just see where this thing goes.
Absolutely.